Hey, boo boo. What are we going to do with that picnic basket? It's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. We got to get it away from Ranger John.
What are the humans doing?
Do you think you're ready? Can you handle the truth? Or are you in denial and demanding more proof? They demonstrate in real time how they're spinning you lies, but no one pays attention, no one opens their eyes. They walk around like zombies with their head in the mobiles, signaling their virtues with a pick on their profile. Yeah. Signaling their virtues with a pick on their profile. So if you think you're ready, you don't need more proof. Conspiracy deniers are denying the truth. They fabricate our problems and pretend to provide the best solution, but we all know they lie. They lied about the weapons and they lied about health. They lied about the fact that they're transferring the wealth. You should really notice how they're pushing the fear. Keep everybody terrified and not thinking clear. Yeah. Everybody's not thinking clear. Keep everybody terrified. Yeah, can do nothing. Keep everybody terrified and not thinking clear. When you do, you realize that this is the trick. It's getting really stupid now, they're taking the mic. Said, do you think you're ready? Can you handle the truth? Or are you in denial and demanding more proof? They demonstrate in real time how they're spelling you lies, but no one pays attention, no one opens their eyes. They walk around like zombies with their head in the mobiles, signaling their virtues with a pick on their profile. Yeah. Signaling their virtues on their profile. Hey.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Sasquatch. Well, that's not right. This one's Chilling with Sasquatch, where we're talking about super predators. Now, I sat down earlier, set me up a couple of shows in my little playlist over there, and I was like, well, I can't do it tomorrow, which is when I would usually do it, because I'm going to be reading with Scully's House of Thrillers, doing a little Wizard of Oz production over there. It's just a rehearsal. So I can't do it tomorrow. And Wednesday's probably going to be Jake's first day back, and I can't do it Wednesday. So I'm trying to get somebody in for an interview Thursday. So I don't want to schedule anything for Thursday until I don't have somebody. So I decided we're going to do this today and we're going to do this tonight. So what I've got here is the entire reason why bear suits are stupid. They are dumb, ill-conceived things. Now, a shark bite suit might sound dumb, but at least it keeps all your pieces on the inside. A grizzly bear does not care how many layers of steel it has to claw through to eat your insides, because it's after the dear crunchy nougat of your soul. But I want to ask chat right quick. What do you think the most deadly bear is, as far as species or type? And what do you think the most aggressive species is? Two questions. And while you consider that, I'm going to let Captain Curmudgeon have his little hissy fit about things. It's kind of funny. I enjoy it.
Marketing professional to look at Anheuser-Busch's public relations disaster of the past 30 days and say, hey, what a great idea. We should totally do that too. And if you are that kind of marketing professional, it would appear that you work for the U.S. Navy, which today has rolled out its very own drag queen mascot because apparently the Navy wants nothing more than to be the Bud Light of the armed services. So if you ever fantasized about living in a world where In the Navy by the Village People is a real recruiting jingle for the actual Navy, well, then let me be the first to welcome you to your new utopia. I guess the Navy looked at the Bud Light Dylan Mulvaney fiasco, during which sales have hemorrhaged by 26% and counting. And they said, well, shit, we're only 8% under our recruiting target. I bet if we got us our own drag queen, we could triple that number real easy. And then the Admiral comes in and says, you idiots know you're supposed to make that number smaller and not bigger, right? It is strange living in a world where major brands, and for recruiting purposes, the Navy counts as a major brand, I think, when they take a marketing approach that seems calculated to antagonize the exact types of people who should make up their core demographic. So if you're Bud Light and your normal target audience is college frat boys who don't care what their beer tastes like, and middle-aged bikers and welders and steam fitters who don't care what their beer tastes like, any marketing approach you take in a sane world has to be predicated on not doing anything that might alienate those types of people and make them say, you know what? I was willing to overlook it when the commercials were all masculinity and patriotism and whatnot. But now that they've gone and got woke, I gotta say, this beer really tastes like shit. And we haven't heard anything from former Bud Light marketing VP Alyssa Heinerscheid since she was unceremoniously let go, but it would appear she landed on her feet and joined the Navy and is already in charge of their recruiting campaign, because there's two things you need to know about the activist left. Number one, they always fail upward. So Alyssa Heinerscheid, wherever she winds up landing, even though she single-handedly authored the quickest and most total brand collapse in American history, she will be in a higher ranking position with a bigger income. You just watch, because her incompetence turned her into a well-known woke activist. And the activist left always takes care of its own. And the number two thing is, because being a woke activist means never having to say you're sorry or to admit really any sort of fault at all, ever, with oneself. Moreover, it means always subordinating one's actual professional duties to the cause of woke activism, right up to the point of ruining the number one beer brand in the country. So if you're a Bud Light marketing executive, your real job is woke activism. If you're a middle manager at the local widget factory, your real job is woke activism. If you're a government bureaucrat, your real job is woke activism. And the need for woke activism always trumps whatever it is you are supposed to be doing in the job that you have. So if your job is to sell more beer and you wind up selling drastically less beer because you chose woke activist flummery over good marketing, that doesn't make you a bad employee. It just makes you a great activist. But you know what? I don't think I'm quite done making Navy jokes yet. Hit the music, Jim Eagle.
That guy really tickles my pickle. I can't tell you how much. Did I just turn my sound off? I think my sound's still here. Let's see. No, okay, it's good. No, we're good. Okay. All right, so when it comes down to bears, I've seen a lot of stuff in the comments, and I've got to be honest with you.
In its habitat.
To save the wild animal.
When it comes to the difference between a Kodiak and a grizzly, I'm not sure there is a major difference there. I think genetically speaking, we're talking about the same creature. Some people argue that a grizzly is just a very well-fed brown bear. That's not really the case. Kodiaks and grizzlies both carry that hump that you see right there on your screen, right above their shoulders. And brown bears generally don't develop that no matter how big they get. But as far as attempting to identify a bear before you are attacked, the only reason to do this is that I can see is to determine whether climbing a tree is an option. because under most circumstances, if you can climb a tree, you can thwart a large brown bear or a grizzly, unless it knocks the tree over and eats you. But a black bear may very well decide to climb the tree and eat you. It's a thing. Polar bears attack more people per year than any other species on Earth. And it's because their habitat's been relegated to relegated to the fringes of their own prime habitat. So you're talking about a species that has been under 10,000 years of assault by humans over hunting their various hunting grounds. And in the past 200 or 300 years, we have severely impacted their environment to the extent that while the number of polar bears aren't that low, they're still considered endangered because the entire species is at risk. They don't have a whole lot of genetic diversity to speak of, and they are more commonly nowadays breeding outside of their species, meaning that they're producing sterile hybrid grizzly hybrids. And these things are truly freaking ferocious. And if you're talking about a legitimate kill, I should have went and got the picture of that one, but there is a kill in Alaska of what appears to be a grizzly polar hybrid that was absolutely ginormous. It wasn't quite on par with the short-faced bear for size, but it was pretty freaking close. It was a good second swing on it. All right, let's run back through chat right quick before we get into the bear attackings and how bad they are. Let's see. We got dude Claiborne hopped in almost immediately. Like he was on point. So Claiborne gets the gold. We got Princess OPD gets the silver, and John Denicola gets the bronze. Welcome to the show, y'all. Melissa Stedman's in here. We got let's see, Joko, Kansas. Yeah, Joko, Kansas Cop Watch. Black Watch is in here. It's good to see you, bud. Brooklyn Audit's made an appearance. Apparently he's lurking. Make Stupid People Famous is in here. We got to get that man a bottom string for his guitar. Change his whole life. A non-mouse is in the house. That's good to see. Scotty Waddles is here. Hey, bud. Good to see you. Supposed to be steady and not move. Well, that depends. If it's a black bear, yeah, you might be able to fist fight him to a standstill if he's not too big. A brown bear will just lay on you and lick your face off if that's what works. I advise you to carry a pistol, personally. I mean, that's the very reason for having the right to bear arms, is to protect yourself, and not just from crackheads on 4th Street. You can also protect yourself from wild animals that try to eat your face. Now, I'm Sasquatch. I'm perfectly fine leaving these things right where they're at, all the way up until they invade my personal space. As long as they're over there, they're fine. They come over here, they're going to pop leaks everywhere. They're just going to be leaking all over here, all over there, all over here. It's not going to end well for neither one of us. But way not well for them. Right? Yeah, no, dude. I mean, it's exactly the same thing. You folks up in New York, man, y'all are just oppressed, absolutely oppressed. If every single one of you people was carrying a pistol, it would really eliminate the crime. Like, it would vanish overnight. If they knew that every time they tried to pull some of that crap, they'd have to face somebody who's armed and dangerous. And what's worse is if you did it overnight, everybody'd be armed and stupid. But about 2 weeks of that crap running will solve a lot of those problems. People will get wise about which way to point things, and you'll figure it out. It's like taking all the warning labels off of everything. Right? Mom's wholesome videos. Welcome to the show. Good to see you. Blue Unicorn is Mountain Fresh. I assume he looks Mountain Fresh. When you go check out his channel, man, that man's got a better beard than I got. It's impressive. I would like to interview his beard, as a matter of fact. I think that would be an interesting one. Okay, so we're going to start with the concept of a bear suit. I don't know why anyone thought this was a good idea. Because here's the issue. Unlike a shark, a bear has hands, paws with little scimitars on them. And no matter how tough you make that suit, he's just going to crush your innards up into little bitty pieces and stuff it all down in one sock. right? Even if he can't break through and actually eat you, he will continue to maul you because you smell funny and keep making neat squeaky noises. When a black bear discovers something he doesn't know what is, he grabs it in his mouth and crunches it and then sniffs it because he wants to break it and open so he can smell it better, so he can identify it better. And they've been known to rip pieces off of cars just checking to see what it tastes like. Hello, Old Puff. Welcome to the show, girl. Welcome in. So Homie decided to build a bear suit, and it goes just about the way you would expect. He even went as far as attempting to test it a few times. Oh, really? That's fantastic, bud. Is there any way we could like turn your camera upside down and literally get just your beard into the frame or something like that? Get some little googly eyeballs to put on your chin. So yeah, my man built a suit of armor over here, all wrapped up with chainmail and from the concept, the general concept of like a dog training suit, barding for a horse, and your basic motorcycle skeleton protection job, right? So his idea was that he was going to make a suit that was simply impenetrable to the bear. But as you can see, by the time he gets anywhere near anything resembling safe, it's too much to freaking wear. You can't walk around there with it. And yeah, sure, you're safe from cousin Earl over here whacking you with a pool cue, but you're not safe from that bastard who's fixing to take one stroke. Oh, maybe you are. I doubt it. Can't be a heavy load. Oh yeah, no, they didn't shoot him. I guess if you stuck a bulletproof vest in there, it would actually fly. But a bear is not a bullet. I mean, that's the thing. It's not a charging car. It's not none of these things. It is a can opener on feet. A giant dumb suit of armor. And yes, it sounds like something my beard might do. Just look like one of those troll dolls. Dude, you smoke yourself way more than I could ever smoke you. What's up, Scully? Good to see you, bud. I was just telling everybody I can't do my show tomorrow because I'm going to be over there with you doing a reading. And I seem to have a disconnect in my brain between reading and singing. We may literally have to have some people whistle the tune when the time comes, because I have sat here reading those lines, and every single time, as soon as I get done with the actual spoken part, I have to turn and look at something to remember the tune. And I know it's do, 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 woof, 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 and another la, 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 you know, but I don't know. I've just got to disconnect my skull or something. I don't know. It's like autism. It's like you can't sing while you're reading. Stop that. I guess. I don't know. Homie here gets attacked by black bear. Like, and the black bear just wanders up on him. And it's lucky this man had him a pistol because he was out there bow hunting. Or maybe he hit him with the bow. I'm not sure. But he breaks up the attack here in a second because there's the black bear coming up. And I think there's two of them over there. So my question is, do you think if this man was out there hunting with that suit that he could draw that bow? I don't think so. Hello, Queen Bird. Welcome to the show. Smoking Auditor, good to see you, bud. Is it that you sound terrible or your Audacity count sucks? Because when I run just my raw gear, I really can't sing worth a damn either. But I can fake 2 lines at a time, so I can pretend to sing well. You'll believe I can sing, although I can't do it. No way I can do it live. Dude, bears get along with you too, bud. As soon as they get to the creamy nougat of your soul, they get along with you much more. I like them over there too, way over there. I like looking at them through scopes. I don't want to be close enough I can smell them, because that makes the hair on the back of my neck stand up, and I don't like it. You know, there's a Sasquatch account of there's a sighting, a Sasquatch sighting, an official account of a Sasquatch basically having a fist fight with a bear. Apparently the guys there spent 30 minutes watching them. Let's see. All right. So here we go, bud. This is going to be the beginning of the actual educational part of this show. Oh, no. No. Is that still working? Yeah, okay. Wow. That was pretty intense. I got my adrenaline running. I just thought the whole world shut down. So each of these videos has a different subspecies of bear associated with it. A black bear will come out of nowhere and just rip your face off, and may very well leave you there and not eat you because they're not really hunting you. Chances are you've come across a kill site or you've come across somewhere where their cubs are hidden and you never saw them, but they'll just pop up, wipe you out, and leave. And so you don't get a whole lot of black bear kills, right? Usually they just run up and push them over and the people run away, and that's really all there is to the encounter. Occasionally you'll have a very hungry or possibly injured black bear that will take it a little farther, but you can usually back them off with a little bit of bravado and a thrown rock or two, maybe fling some leaves at them. Brown bear is a bit of a different critter. They will defend their cubs, but at the same time, they are more likely to lay down and hide while you just wander by and never knew they were there. You might smell something funky and be like, geez, is there a giant dog over here? Yes, it's a ginormous dog, but they don't want to screw with you no more than you want to screw with them. They'll just hide out on the other side of the log. You may never know they were there. But when you do have an encounter with a brown bear, they're also typically more of a false charger. They don't aggressively charge with the follow through that either a grizzly or a brown bear has. And I'm not aware of polar bears actually false charging. They generally just run over and bite things. They've eaten pieces of boats, buoys out of the harbor. I mean, they're a menace. But brown bears you can generally get along with. They're not overly aggressive as long as you don't invade the space of their recent kills or their recent birthings or whatever. You're generally okay. They just leave typically. Grizzlies. Now, grizzlies have the same opinion of the situation as brown bears, but you're big enough to be a worthy catch, right? With a brown bear, you're actually too big to eat at one go. So it doesn't benefit the bear a whole lot to hunt you down and eat you. It's more likely that you wander into something that you're not prepared for, and the bear just kills you out of just defense of its territory and young, usually involving a kill site. But with grizzlies, first of all, their range is a good deal larger. And so they tend to have a little bit more of a distance encounter with people than they have an up close and personal encounter. And so when you see grizzly attacks, it generally ends exactly the way you think it will. And it's usually just like the brown bear, where you wander up on it and it's laying down on the other side of a log with cubs. And it's like, oh crap, it's got cubs. And then, you're up there trying to explain to St. Peter that he was just walking through the woods and saw some bear cubs and then died. Not exactly sure what happened. So bear suits are dumb. Never trust a bear suit. And when you account for the fact that grizzlies are huge and a polar bear can outweigh a grizzly by 150 pounds, there's no such thing as a safe bear. All of these things are just vicious super predators specifically designed to feed on ice age mammals, which we are. At least Sasquatch is. So they make me nervous in the woods.
Share with you is quite terrifying. So prepare now, if you will, for what is the most horrific bear attack story
Kat, welcome to
in
the show.
Japanese
Good to see
history. This incident took place in 1915,
Is it granny?
which is known as the Sungbetsu brown bear incident. This bear ravaged an entire village, murdering women and children alike in cold blood. It was a cold winter in Sungbetsu, which is some 18 miles inland from the west coast of Hokkaido Island. The year was 1915, and the world was at war. But in Japan, Besides fighting Imperial
357,
Germany,
what's up,
the
buddy?
inhabitants of Sungbetsu had a
Kinda wanna
different
call you
kind of
Sig.
enemy.
I think that's what I decided I was gonna call you.
Usuri brown bear. The
Sup,
bear
buddy?
had
Good to
woken
see you.
early from its hibernation, hungry and looking for food. It began a killing spree that would devastate many lives. Due to the meticulous Japanese records kept since that time, almost all
They attract bears.
of the details of the events are known today. It all began on a mid-November morning when the brown bear appeared on the doorstep of the Akita family. The first encounter with the bear was scary, but essentially harmless, as the bear took some corn and left shortly afterward.
Let's do this bit. So this guy does like all kinds of different like unusual things. The name of the channel is Chilling Tales. And that's pretty much exactly what they do. I'm not a huge fan of his narration style, but I can't really complain about his visual work and the way he cuts it together, and his editing is absolutely on point. Like his sound is phenomenal, but I just don't like his accent. I don't like the way he talks. I mean, it's okay. It's fine. It's great for getting information across. It just grates on me after a while, but I guess everybody would grate on me eventually.
Although it was too early for a bear to wake up, meetings with animals weren't uncommon in the area since it was a
Wait, that sounds like a
freshly
Native
settled
American name. Meetings with animals.
community. Unfortunately, the bear appeared again on November 20. The head of the Akita family became concerned and called his son and some friends from the neighboring village for help. On November 30, they managed to shoot the bear,
Make stupid
but
people
wounded
famous.
it
I'm not
only,
putting that
and the animal
anymore on
managed to
screen that it's
escape,
already gonna
leaving
be.
a trail of blood.
I'm
They
not- I'm
followed
not
the
calling
trail
attention
to
that.
Mount Anashika, but they didn't manage to catch up to it. Believing that it would not return again, since it must have been deterred by the gunshot wound, the people
It's that I think it's that NorCal drawl he's got going on, where he's like, when he tried to shoot it again, and it just kind of trails off at the end. I feel like if you're gonna bother to speak about something, you should at least sound interested in your own content. To me, it just sounds like he was bored of this like 4 hours ago, and he just wants to get it over with. I don't feel any excitement in it, is what I'm saying.
will put a stop to the search. The bear reappeared in the morning of December 9, this time at the home of
Yeah,
the
baby.
Ota family.
I can't wait.
Inside the house,
You're gonna play with my
Mayu,
beard
the
so
wife
much,
of the head of the Ota
dude.
household, was babysitting a baby. The bear entered the house, attacked the baby, and killed it. A few seconds later, the bear took Mayu and dragged her out of the house. The scene was terrible. Mayu was later found by a search party, and her remains were buried under a tree in the snow. The search party finally located the bear 150 meters into the forest. 5 of the men shot at it, but only one bullet hit the bear, and it managed to escape again. The village was in a panic, as people feared that the enraged and hungry bear would return for more human flesh.
Right. Okay. So we're pretty sure it's going to come back for more human flesh, right? So why aren't we gathering up the troops and wandering out there to go kill the bear? It's bleeding. We can track it. I mean, I know men that can track a hawk across a foggy field on a windy day. Like these people are amazing. They can track it. I promise you, especially something that big. You won't lose Pee-wee out there. That's not going to happen. Pee-wee will follow him straight back to his house and set the dogs on him, and we won't have a bear problem anymore. That's how the good old boys handle it.
Many armed villagers came to the house of the Ota family to keep guard, and an additional 50 guards were deployed at the house of their neighbors, the Mayuki family. During the night, the bear appeared in the yard of the Ota family. One of the men took a shot at it, but missed. The guards from the neighboring homestead arrived to assist, but by that time, the bear was gone. Nobody could have ever expected what was about to ensue.
Hey, that's actually a show I put together a while back and didn't ever do. It just, I don't know if they sit in the list long enough and I don't do a show on it, I take them out. But Sun Tzu, when he was developing his treatise on war, he was given, he made a statement to one of the shogun or something that you could give him any fighting force, any force of any type, and he would turn it into a contention on the battlefield, that he could sway the end of a battle with any force. And the guy in charge gave him a group of handmaidens. And in 6 months, he fielded one of the only all-female force of deadly warriors fielded in Asia up to that date. And they were all volunteer slaves, as it were, because they had the choice of basically going into the tomb with the next dead royal or joining this thing, and they joined this. So they were kind of volunteered into it. But at the same time, he did create a formidable fighting force that stuck around for a couple of 100 years after he died, although it was warped into insanity. What's up, Izzy? Good to see you, girl. How you doing? How you doing? Right? When am I supposed to sky and stuff? That's your gimmick, dude. I'm not going to step on your toes with that. That'd just be silly.
As well as the 50 guards that were posted in the yard of the Miyuki family household, there were also several women with their children inside, including Miyuki's wife, Yayo. Now, with the guards dispatched to the other house,
I'll go check out
the
Blue
women and
Unicorn
children were
Sing
left
thingies.
unprotected. The fleeing bear had managed to
Certainly
get past
interesting.
the guards unseen and got into the house of Miyuki. Inside, Yayo was preparing a meal while carrying one of her children on her back. When she heard
Oh my God, y'all. Fuck that whole thing.
noises outside, she went to investigate, but it was too late. The bear was already in the house. Yayo tried to escape, but her second son tripped her in the dark and she fell. And while she was on the ground, the bear attacked her and bit the child on her back. During this attack, there was only one guard left outside the house. When he heard the noise inside, he opened the door, and the beast left Yayo and attacked him instead. When he attempted to defend himself, the bear struck him in the back. The bear continued with its killing spree and killed Yayo's third son. 2 more children and a pregnant woman were killed at the house that night. Yayo somehow managed to escape.
So homie balls in on these folks' house, pretty much just starts murking folks left, right, and center. It's like they got oil and the bear is American. Ganks like all of them, except for this one dude who climbed out a window and ran away, which I can't say as I blame him. I mean, like, once a bear kills about 3 people in front of you, you really don't have a whole lot of choice except for kick the dude's leg out next to you and bolt. I mean, you got to be faster than the slowest dude in the group. That's it.
And alert the guardsmen who were returning from the unsuccessful hunt. She told them about the attack. There were still noises in the house, which was a sign that the bear was inside. The guardsmen recommended burning the house down, but this was rejected by Yayo, who was hoping that somebody might still be alive inside. The guards then divided themselves up into 2 parties, one at the back of the house and one at the front. When the bear appeared at the front door, the confused guards feared that somebody would die in the crossfire, and the bear managed to disappear into the night. This beast that had killed 6 people in only 2 days had escaped once again. Inside the house, the scene was horrible. Only 2 children.
Right. No, that Revenant scene is awesome. It's one of the greatest bear attacks ever put on screen. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, if you attempt to show that scene on a YouTube video on a live, they don't take you down for copyright. They take you down for gore, because that scene is amazing. It's that good. Absolutely. Go check out Scully's House of Thrillers. I'll be over there tomorrow doing a reading. The Wizard of Oz, where I am Oz, the great and powerful. I'm also 15 other smaller characters, but they're all the same person, so I guess it works. And I've got to learn to sing. Izzy's gonna teach me. That's how that's gonna work. Yeah, we know your cat's 18 years old, honey, and you should probably hit that like. And you can't chat right now. I got you. Yeah, we're hip. It's good to see you, babe, princess. Buttons.
And survived the attack. When the head of the Miyuki household, who was traveling the night of the attack, found out about the tragedy, he decided to contact Yamamoto Haikichi, a professional bear hunter. When he explained the attack to him, Haikichi was convinced that the culprit was a bear called Kezagaki. According to him, this bear had previously killed 3 women. Haikichi, who had traded his gun for alcohol, refused Miyuki's request for help, telling him that he wasn't in the business anymore. 2 days later, a government team of snipers was formed,
Scotty,
which eventually, after some persuasion, included Yamamoto Haikichi. They were intent on hunting down and killing this bear that was terrorizing the region. On December 13, the bear Kezagaki invaded the house of the Ota family yet again, taking all of their food reserves, then continuing on to ransacking a further 8 houses before returning to the mountain. The search party now consisted of 60 men, together with Haikichi. That same night, they managed to spot Kezagaki and shot at it, but once again, they failed to kill it. A small team led by Yamamoto was assembled to follow the blood trail and footprints of the wounded bear. Yamamoto, who knew Kezagaki's habits very well, managed to track it down under a Japanese oak tree. He decided to move with only 1 man accompanying him, and they got to a distance of within 20 meters of the bear when they fired. Yamamoto shot Kezagaki directly in the heart, and with the next shot, hit it in the head. The beast was finally dead. Kezagaki was huge, and when they measured it, it was 749 pounds and nearly 9 feet tall.
Oh, yeah, baby. I came across an Akita one afternoon. I was in Savannah with this chick who, me and her weren't a thing, but she was going to Savannah for the weekend and she didn't want to go alone. So I just went down there with her and we hung out at this place, like the Comedy Cafe or the Comedy Coffee Shop or something like that. And the place we were staying at was owned by one of the guys that was managing the place. And so we show up down there and this chick walks in with a 45, holding her hands up like this with a 45 in her hand. And she says, "Don't panic." And I thought, absolutely not, man. And then this freaking bear walked in behind her, and I knew something serious was going on when I heard the trophies on the shelf in the kitchen start jingling like it does when Johnny walks by it. I was 145 pounds at the time, and I couldn't make that thing wiggle. But what came in the room shook the trophy shelf. And I was like, whoa, why did she bring a bear into the house? But it wasn't a bear. It was an Akita. Those things are gargantuan, but they're also really sweet once you get on the right side of them. What's up, ATL? Good to see you, bud. Hold on, let me put you up on screen. That's the man with the master plan right there. Homie, I thought your ass was going to jail the other day, dude. Like, when they asked you to leave, I figured that'd be the end of that conversation, even if you were in public. I didn't think they was going to care. But you talked your way right around the end of that dog leg and went to another department, screwed with their day up even more. I'm proud of you, dude. I'm amazingly proud of you.
Soon after these tragic events, the village became a ghost town, as many of the villagers left in fear of more bear attacks. So what was the cause of this killing spree? Many people believe that the bear woke up early due to hunger, probably making it more aggressive. Today,
Donald Fuller, good to
in
see you, bud.
Rakusen
Welcome to the show.
Sawa, there is a forest shrine called the Sengbetsu Brown Bear Incident Reconstruction Location. Here, in memory of those who died, the story is presented authentically, with an original house from that period having been reconstructed, and full explanations given of the events that occurred. But what do you guys think about this bear attack incident? It's crazy how many people it took to finally take down this bear, and how even with...
Now, this is one of the only cases that I could dig up of a bear having a actual kill count on an area, on a position, like a village or something like that. There are a couple of sketchy stories from like World War I of bears attacking particular forward operating bases and whatnot, both German and American and Allied. So I know they're documented in government documents, but at the same time, this is the same fighting force that once had a bear fight for them. So I say it's fair game myself. No, man, I'm not doing it. All right. So how many attacks a year do you reckon there are from panda bears? Are they dangerous? Are they a threat? Yeah, no, most of the people, actually all of the people who have wrenches that are currently in here have been on my show. That's part of it. We got to sit down and have us a talk, and I'd interview you. Literally, I literally interview you. Literally, that's not an exaggerating, and I'm not using it like one of those Valley girls. We sit and talk for a couple of hours, and you might end up with a wrench. But the thing is people who actually talk to me tend to come back to the show. And I think that's pretty cool. I like it.
Number 5.
Panda bear attacks are a little more common than you might think. Consider this. You only ever encounter a panda bear in the wild when you wander up on them in a cane patch. And you didn't see the bastard until you got too close, and then it rips your face off, right? Or the other type of panda attack that takes place are in zoos, which are way more common because panda are bears. They might be vegetarians, but they will still rip your face off. In fact, I'm going to have to do a koala show to explain how dangerous those screwballs are. They are not cuddly. They will give you chlamydia. Panda bears.
Number 5. Wei Hua. Wei Hua, a 41-year-old conservationist, was attacked by one of the pandas.
Hey, Whiskey Uncensored.
He was working alongside 2 colleagues in the Wulong Nature Reserve in the province of Sichuan, China. The animals they were studying were Shimei, an adult panda, and its cub, Ba Shi. The scientists were using panda suits so that the mother and daughter wouldn't be stressed.
I see this
by
going
presence.
well. This is going to end great.
Usually, the 3 men didn't get too close to the pandas, as they were aware of the dangers involved. However, one of the pandas' monitoring devices wasn't working correctly. They couldn't seem to get a signal, and so they began searching for the bears. When they found the animals, they attempted...
Nah, dude, they're infested so heavily that any drop of saliva that gets in your eye or an open wound, and they do attack an open wound or even the grime under their fingernails, if they scratch you, you got a real good chance of landing you a case of chlamydia. It's not, and there's a couple of other diseases they have too, which are nastier after a fashion, right?
Attempted to leave the area. She may seem to feel threatened though, so she attacked Wei. The panda bit him several times, pushing him onto the ground and injuring his arms as well as his feet. It took his colleagues over 5 minutes to be able to rescue him. Wei lost so much blood that he almost required a whole body transfusion. He also suffered 2 broken wrists and had to endure reconstructive.
Wait a second. Hold on. Truth, you wonder what a bear in the wild would do if you tried to mount it? I imagine she would be angry. She would probably also not be very impressed. Eat your face would be my guess.
Surgery. The conservationist assured the press that he'd forgiven Shimei, as he knew that the panda didn't attack out of viciousness. The giant panda is a species of bear with highly recognizable patterns on its fur. It's mostly white, with black spots over its bulky body and its eyes.
Dude? Hold
Most
up.
of these black
Yeah, no, okay. Yeah, okay. I get what you're saying. I was just fixing to say, yeah, if you literally bleed enough to run enough blood through you to replace some of your stem cells in your freaking bone marrow, yeah, it can change your blood type long term. No joke. But it's rare for people to survive that level of blood loss for any amount of time. And I'm O, but I identify as AB negative. Just like my little friend here.
marks are around its mouth, legs, and shoulders. The panda's diet consists mostly of bamboo. It eats both the shoots and the leaves, but also munches on tubers and grass. Occasionally, the panda will also indulge in meat, hunting down birds or rodents.
Actually, that's
They
how I
require
know
large
about
amounts
the
of
fact that
bamboo
you can
shoots
change blood
every
types is
single
from
day
the,
to survive.
is from
An
the,
adult panda can eat up to
liver
30
transplant.
pounds. This is due to the poor nutritional value of this plant. A higher quantity makes up for the low energy content the bamboo provides. Many pandas, which live in captivity, have several other ingredients added to their diets. These might include eggs, yams, and several fruits, such as bananas or oranges. A fully grown panda can measure anywhere from 4 to 6 feet long, and it's rather heavy, weighing between 150 and 350 pounds.
You know, I regret
Usually,
not getting
the females are smaller than the males.
the farting panda
The
video.
panda's fur is thick,
I should
making the
definitely play
already
it before we go
rounded
out.
body look even bulkier. This allows the panda to survive the low temperatures of the forests it inhabits. The panda has 5 fingers as well as a thumb. This last digit is an evolutionary enhancement that allows it to grab the bamboo rods while it eats. In the wilderness, pandas tend to live 20 years, while they can live up to 10 years further in captivity. The panda is a solitary animal, and females are particularly territorial. The two genders only meet during the mating season. A panda's pregnancy lasts between 95 and 160 days. Most of the time, twins are born, but the female cannot produce enough milk for both. This is due to the panda's diet, which renders it unable to store fat. The mother raises the cub alone, without the help of the male. Number 4. Zhang Jiao. Zhang Jiao was visiting the Beijing Zoo with his family when the unexpected happened. He claimed he was playing with his son with a small toy next to the panda's pen. When his son threw the toy back at him, both Jiao and the doll fell into the animal's habitat. Authorities from the zoo insist that he'd climbed inside to retrieve the toy instead. The wall around the cage was over 5 feet tall, with a 10-foot pit on the other side, so the man couldn't climb out without help. Gugu, the panda living inside the den, attacked immediately. This animal had a history of aggressive reactions to people wandering into its pen. It had already harmed 2 other tourists in the past. The latest one before Zhang was a drunken man who'd gotten into the enclosure to hug Gugu. When the panda bit him,
you look at that thing and you go, man, I just want to hug it. That thing will eat your face. It needs trace minerals too that it doesn't get from bamboo. So it has to eat your face. It wants to eat your bones for the calcium.
man shockingly decided to bite it back. In Zhang's case, the panda bit him on the left thigh first and then chewed up the man's right leg. His wounds were critical, and the panda's teeth caused considerable damage to several of his muscles. Gugu's handlers had to pry the panda's jaws open in order to have it let go of Zhang. Fortunately, he survived the attack and didn't suffer permanent damage. The giant panda's primary habitat is the Chinese province of Sichuan. It also roams the woods of Shanxi and Gansu. They're so popular in China that over instead. The panda is not a particularly aggressive animal. That being said, it's still a bear, and it may attack when feeling threatened or irritated.
These things weigh
Since they have the
500
reputation
pounds,
of being
400
docile, this tends to be a problem with human encounters. People approach them without
Something like
considering the
280 on
dangers
average.
that the panda can pose. Number 3, Chinese tourist. A Chinese tourist was
Stay away
attacked
from
by a
pandas.
giant panda named Mei Ling when he attempted to sneak into its pen for some cuddles. Only the man's last name was revealed. The man surnamed Chen was trying to showcase his bravery among some of his friends at the Nanchang Zoo. He was determined to climb into the panda's cage and hug it
Yes.
while it slept.
Kisses.
He managed to go up the 4 feet
Give it
3
little
fence
butterfly kisses
and then
on
climbed
its
over the 10
eyeballs.
feet deep pit. He approached the panda and began teasing it.
And then it would eat
This
your
caused
face,
the animal
bro.
to wake up. Mei Ling wrapped its arms around the man's leg and bit down. When he tried to squeeze away, the panda sat on him for over 5 minutes. There was footage online showing the beast and its victim struggling
Go
on
for
the
those
floor.
super cute eyes.
The man was only able to escape when Mei Ling rolled over. Instead of sticking around and asking for medical help, he fled the zoo. Fortunately,
I tell you what, I'm not sure really what to do with the bear if it decides to go for the gusto, because chances are it's just going to eat you. But if you get the chance, I advise you to stick both fingers up his nose just as far as you can get it and then bend them. And I'm pretty sure he'll stop right there, although I don't know what to do next. Dies, he's just going to shred you with his front paws. But I mean, he ain't going to bite you as long as his nose is clogged. He's got to breathe through his mouth.
it seemed his injuries weren't too severe since he was able to run away. The panda wasn't hurt in the struggle. As of the making of this video,
Hey,
the police
Bootsy,
haven't been able
welcome
to
to the
find
show.
him. Zookeepers say he was incredibly lucky Mei Ling seemed to have played with him instead of going in for the kill. Today's video was requested by Arav Akhtar. If you have any other topics you'd like to learn about, subscribe and let us know in the comments section below. The giant panda might look harmless, but it's important to remember that it's still a bear. This means that even though it's not generally a carnivore,
Apparently, attempting to hug a panda is a common cause of death when involving pandas, and they're almost always in freaking zoos. So, your Sasquatch fact of the day is never hug a panda, trash panda, or anything like that, because chances are, if a trash panda comes at
As the largest land predator.
not yet. If trash panda comes at you, it's probably rabid, so don't hug it either. I'm not going for a ride with no bear. I had a neighbor when I was growing up. Actually, there's a channel on YouTube called Untethered Live. His father had a van, mid-70s van, and he hit a black bear with it. And rather than remove it from the grill, he took baling twine and set it in place in the grill using baling twine and then left it there to rot. And he rode around with that thing on the front of his truck for years. When it was all said and done, the only thing left of it was a skull that he had wired to where the hood ornament would be, the skull of that black bear. That was probably 15 years later.
As the largest land
Oh, polar bears. All right, so polar bears live in the same environment that people live in the Arctic. In fact, people live in the most polar bearific environments that there is, because we go to live especially in places where salmon runs and stuff like that are common. If there is a viable food source available, people have gone there to exploit it and encountered the bears that are eating there. However, in the case of polar bears, they don't have the option like the grizzly of just moving further upstream. They have to go out and hunt the seals where the seals are. And towns seem to be popping up in a lot of these places. So now you got way more encounters with polar bears than you have with virtually any other species not involving a zoo. Polar bears in the zoo don't seem to be too terribly dangerous. I don't think they've killed but 4 or 5 people over the past 100 years. Whereas polar bears in the wild eat pieces of jet ski and boats and will rip wings off of airplanes and chew it up just to see if there's anything crunchy inside. I mean, they're freaking killing machines. They're designed for nothing but the eating of flesh.
Predator, polar bears command respect and awe with their impressive size and strength. With very few things able to stop a rampaging polar bear.
You want to talk about the Vorpal bunnies, bud? We can do a Vorpal bunny episode. I'll
Hit
fake that
like
whole thing.
button
I have
and
no issue with it.
subscribe right now. Here are some tales of close encounters with polar bears that will leave you at the edge of your seat. Welcome to Final Affliction. As the sun rose over the pristine landscape of Santa.
So this is the other case of what appears to be a single bear attacking a single location for a kill count taking place, or polar bears. Now, I don't know what that Japanese issue was over there or what kind of bear that might have been, but it seemed like it might have been rabid because it was going like ham on these folks. Or maybe they offended the wrong god. I couldn't tell you. But in the case of polar bears, they just do this. They've seen people go through doorways and they will go up to a door and bounce on it to see if it's unlocked.
Narajik Nunavut, Elijah Kernark and his companion set out on what they thought would be an uneventful journey to his cabin. The warm August air held the promise of a relaxing weekend filled with laughter and good company. Unfortunately, fate had other plans. Elijah revved up his ATV and took off down the trail. His partner and sister-in-law were close behind, their engines roaring in unison. As they drove deeper into the wilderness, the beauty of the landscape enveloped them. The towering trees and snow-capped mountains were a sight to behold. But their peaceful ride was about to take a dangerous turn. It was just 15 to 20 minutes into their trip when they saw her, a local woman waving frantically to get their attention. Elijah pulled over and turned off his engine, wondering what was going on. The woman approached him, her eyes wide with fear. She told Elijah there was a polar bear near his cabin and that it was not safe there. Elijah shrugged off her warning, dismissing it as an overreaction. The three continued down the path, riding their ATVs
Maybe it's an
through the
Arctic
snowy
terrain
terrain.
vehicle.
When they finally reached the cabin, Elijah's partner and sister-in-law decided to stay inside and rest. But Elijah was too curious to sit still. He wanted to sneak a glimpse of the said polar bear. Elijah wandered through the trees, and he couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. Suddenly, he caught a glimpse of movement out of the corner of his eye. His heart racing, he slowly turned his head to see a giant polar bear just a few yards away, tearing apart a carcass with its powerful jaws. For a moment, Elijah was frozen in place, unsure what to do. His heart pounded in his chest as he stared down at the massive polar bear. The creature had detected his presence and was now growling menacingly, its eyes fixed on him. Suddenly, the bear stood up on its hind legs and abandoned its food to come after Elijah. Elijah turned and sprinted as fast as he could, but he was no match for the speed and strength of an angry polar bear. The bear's powerful strides closed the gap between them in a matter of seconds, and before
Can you imagine? Well, not that thing.
Before Elijah could react, the bear tackled him.
Can you imagine that thing coming after you in knee-deep snow? Oh my God. Like, this is why you carry guns, people. This is the reason, the whole purpose. I mean, the crackhead down on 4th is just a passing fetish. These things are the reason why you carry pistols. And I don't want to hear none of that long gun bullshit. I'm talking about something that you can shoot him 19 times and reload quickly and shoot him another 19 times, because that might take a clip or 6, a full magazine. Just unload, mag dump into his side. Do not even consider what you're shooting. Just keep shooting. If you can hit an eyeball, if you're that type of a draw, then fine. But if not, yeah, volume. Volume of fire.
Him to the ground. Elijah's world went black as the polar bear's massive jaws closed around his back. He could feel the bear's sharp teeth tearing through his flesh, ripping muscle and tendons apart. He screamed out in agony, his voice
Hey,
echoing
the
through
Divine
the quiet
Sorcerer. Welcome
forest.
to the show, bud.
But
Good to
the
see
bear
you.
wasn't finished
Grasshopper
yet.
et al. Good to see you
It
too,
began
bud.
to maul him, thrashing
Welcome
him
in.
from side to side like a rag doll. As Elijah's life hung in the balance, his sister and sister-in-law heard the commotion from inside the cabin. Terrified, they rushed outside, their eyes widening in horror at the sight before them. The polar bear was attacking Elijah, and he was defenseless. Sensing the new presence in the area, the polar bear turned its attention to Elijah's partner. Without a second thought, Elijah struggled to his feet, determined to protect her from harm. He began to chase after the bear. But the bear was quick, and it sensed Elijah's presence. In an instant, it turned around and
All right, Blue
charged
Unicorn.
toward
Good
him,
to see you, bud.
its massive
I
paws
appreciate you
pounding
coming
the
by.
ground as it closed in on him. Elijah could feel his heart racing in his chest as he tried to outrun the bear, but
Sasquatch
it was too
proves.
fast. As they ran around the ATV, the bear caught Elijah again, its powerful jaws closing around his arm, neck, and face. Elijah cried out in pain, struggling to free himself from the bear's grip. But it was no use. The bear was too strong. The bear started pulling at Elijah's hair, inflicting excruciating pain as it began tearing his scalp away. His partner and sister-in-law were horrified at the sight, so they tried throwing things at the creature in hopes it would run away. Suddenly, the bear turned its attention toward them.
Right. No,
The massive polar bear
Claiborne was
lunged at
talking
one
about
of the
that
women.
earlier, and I tried to find a reliable source for some of that. And as far as YouTube's concerned, I didn't come across a whole lot. This one image popped up a whole bunch, and I want to research more into that image before I bring it into this. But this isn't about hybrids. This is about bears in general and the threat that they pose to the average citizen going to their car in the morning. Black bears are a much more heavy populated species than polar bears, but we populated heavily in polar bear territory. So the chances of coming across them aren't that far removed from one another.
Its jaws snapping dangerously close to her face. Elijah began blacking out, but with a surge of adrenaline, he struggled to his feet, determined to do whatever it took to distract the bear. After all, the women had children and grandchildren, Elijah thought. He yelled and waved his arms, trying to capture the bear's attention. It worked. The bear turned to him again and began attacking him. However, this time, the creature opened its menacing jaws and bit Elijah on the neck. He had never experienced pain like that in his life as he felt the bear's tooth inside his eyes. Elijah's world turned dark. But just as he thought all was lost, shots rang out from an unknown source.
Can you
The bear
imagine
stumbled-
that? Hearing the tooth clanking around against the edge of your eye orbital right here, like, ah!
Back, roaring in pain and confusion as Elijah lay there, struggling to stay conscious. Afterward, Elijah couldn't hear anything anymore. He was worried that the bear might have killed the other two, but he couldn't get up. His body was battered and bruised, his arm torn apart by the bear's ferocious attack. Suddenly, a voice called out to them. It was the local reverend's wife. "I'm all right," Elijah said, his voice barely above a whisper. And then, to his relief, he heard his partner's voice calling out to him from nearby. His sister-in-law was alive, too. Elijah felt relief washing over him. Eventually, the three were airlifted to a hospital. Elijah was taken to a hospital in Ottawa, while the two women remained in Iqaluit for treatment. In later investigations, police found the bear dead near the cabins and learned the bear was shot and killed by locals. As he lay in the hospital bed,
Good people,
Elijah
Sasquatch
reflected on the
approves.
events. The memory of the polar
You
bear's
molested.
massive jaws and razor-sharp claws still haunted him, a reminder of the danger lurking in the wilderness. Elijah learned that polar bears were beautiful and majestic creatures, but they were also powerful and dangerous. He now knew to respect their strength and be cautious when venturing into their territory. Thankfully, Elijah eventually made a full recovery and lives on to tell the horrifying story of when he was attacked by a polar bear. Nunavut, a vast and magnificent territory in Canada's tundra region, is a world apart from the hustle and bustle of modern life. With its rugged terrain and isolated landscapes, Nunavut is a destination that draws adventurers, explorers, and thrill-seekers alike. Home to over 28,000 Inuit people, Nunavut offers visitors a chance to experience their unique way of life, steeped in tradition and closely tied to the harsh natural environment. In addition to its fascinating culture, Nunavut is also a haven for wildlife enthusiasts. The region is a prime location for spotting Arctic animals such as beluga whales. It was January 14, 2014. As the plane descended towards Pond Inlet, Sarah Johnson could barely contain her excitement. She had always been fascinated with beluga whales, and now she was part of a team of 6 wildlife researchers sent to study these magnificent creatures in their natural habitat. After landing, the team quickly set up their camp a little ways away from the rocky coast. Still, it had a breathtaking view of the turquoise waters.
I haven't seen the
Sarah
Sasquatch
could hear the
versus
sound
bear
of the
video,
whales in the distance.
but there is an account telling, I believe, both Bob Gimlin and Harrison Peters both recount an account of a Sasquatch fighting a bear. Apparently 3 guys witnessed it, and 2 of them reported on it, and 1 verified both accounts but wouldn't speak on it. Or if he did, it was never published. Right? Who's not fascinated by belugas? Have you heard about the Russian belugas that's been popping up around Minsk? So there are these belugas that were found, at least one that was found during some kind of a cruise ship fiasco, where somebody dropped their phone overboard and the beluga brought it back. And then they noticed the beluga's wearing a harness. And it turns out the beluga's been trained to retrieve sensitive equipment from the bottom. And when they dropped the phone, they just triggered that behavior.
Their high-pitched songs echoing through the air. Despite her awe, Sarah knew that they were entering a harsh environment. She asked the local Inuit guide about the potential hazards that could affect their research. The man told her of a spot where polar bears were known to dine on seal carcasses, an area of ice and water about half a mile from their camp. However, he assured her that as long as the team kept their distance, they would be fine. Unfortunately, this was a terrible assumption. What the guide failed to mention was that a portion of the ice had melted over the years, prompting the polar bears in the area to be on land more in search of food. Nevertheless, Sarah found comfort in her 10mm Glock and a can of bear spray. The team was there to study Toxoplasma gondii, a deadly parasite commonly associated with cats but had recently been detected in a population of beluga whales. The parasite had been known to cause blindness in humans, and the Inuit population was at high risk of contracting it due to their reliance on whale meat as a source of food.
It's
Ultimately,
something, dude.
the parasites,
like, for real. I know you're not exactly gonna be bringing him down in one shot, probably. But the thing about a Glock is you can get a whole bunch of bullets. You can get all, like, if you keep pumping them in there, it will have the desired effect. I promise you. It might not be an immediate effect, but it will be the desired effect. It might not die before it finishes eating you, but it will be heavily infected with lead poisoning. Absolutely. That depends entirely on whether or not they're fatted up. If it's early in spring and you encounter them, it's not too thick. And even in the event of a very heavily fatted polar bear, well, no, you might be right on a heavily fatted one. The real issue is what happens to the bullet after it enters. It spalls out. So depending on what you're shooting, you're right. It could be a lost cause. But at the same time, I still say unload absolutely everything you have into it and then stab it in the eyeball with your fingers, right? Just never say die.
Impact on the whales was still.
I mean, what are you going to do?
Mystery,
Just
something
not shoot
Sarah
it?
and her team
Screw that
wanted
shit.
to uncover.
I'm going to my grave.
The sun was
empty
high
gun.
as Sarah
That's the way
and
that's
the
gonna go
rest
down.
prepared to capture a beluga whale. They worked swiftly, setting up their net with precision and care a few yards away from their camp. They agreed to monitor the net for signs of movement throughout 24 hours with 3 to 4 hours of rotating shifts.
I'm going to drop the link. I sent
as
some
Sarah
of y'all
began
links.
her shift, The other researchers went back to camp briefly, leaving her alone to monitor the net. Sarah was deep in concentration, her eyes fixed on the net as she monitored it for any signs of movement. She was so engrossed in her work that she
There's your
almost missed
problem.
the sight of a white figure lumbering toward her from a distance. As the figure came closer, Sarah realized it was a polar bear, but it was oddly thin. Its fur was patchy, and its ribs were visible underneath the skin. Sarah felt her heart racing as the polar bear charged toward her. She knew she needed to act fast, so she stood up and threw her arms in the air, making as much noise as she could to scare the creature away. But the polar bear was undeterred, and it drew closer, closing the distance until it was only 40 feet away from Sarah. It was now apparent that the polar bear was desperately hungry and close to death.
Right.
Sarah's instincts kicked in,
Hello,
and the
Mr.
first thing
Samuel.
she did was pull out her Glock. She fired a shot, piercing through the bear's shoulder. However, it only made the polar bear angrier. In a split second, the bear closed the distance and lunged at her, its massive body hurtling through the air. The bear hit Sarah with incredible force, knocking her to the ground and sending her sprawling. Sarah felt a searing pain as the bear's claws dug into her shoulder, its powerful jaws snapping her arms. Then the bear began gnawing at Sarah's face and head, eventually ripping off her scalp in a bloody mess. Sarah's
Ew.
screams echoed through the quiet stillness of the area.
Ew.
The creature began stomping on her chest,
Right.
breaking her ribs in multiple places. It clawed at her body, ripping the skin and muscles like a hot knife through butter. Sarah's world went dark. The sound of Sarah's gunshot had alerted the researchers, sending them sprinting toward her location. As they arrived at the scene, a chilling sight greeted them, the massive bear towering over their colleague, ruthlessly tearing at her limbs and picking her apart. The gruesome display shook the team to its core. A researcher, armed with his rifle, steadied his arm and shot several rounds at the bear. The creature stumbled back and eventually fell to the ground, lifeless. Sarah's body was so badly mauled she
See,
was
this guy
barely
is
recognizable.
freaking.
However,
His
by
presentation is absolutely flawless. His voice is excellent. His sound quality is way above par. He's got it figured out. This is the way you do a video, folks. When you're doing narration over video, this is the bee's knees. This is how you do it. All right, so we're fixing to change gears like really hard. Don't what's up, AJot? You're gonna actually have to fully load in before I bring you up. All I got's a white screen. So what do we know of Helltown? Hey, that's wiggle around or something, because your green screen's got you green screened out completely. Yeah, that'll do. You can do away with yourself again. There we go. All right. Good evening, AJot. Do away with
You
yourself.
can do away with yourself.
Something's wrong with me, I know.
It was pretty funny. Oh,
I didn't mean to be offensive. Yes, Helltown, Mr. Samuel. AJot, what do you know about Helltown? You ever heard of it?
nope.
All right. So Helltown's this place. Pretty sure it's in like Oklahoma or Kansas or something like that. And back many years ago, it was suddenly cleaned out, apparently, supposedly by the U.S. government for reasons. And nobody's ever was quite sure why or in what way or what. Now, there's two general legends that are carried through from the Helltown story. One is the basic history of Helltown, which is the next video. It's the whole Mystery Archives version of it. Curious History, however, has he's collected a particular tale that I thought was interesting, and it's about a supposed witch in Helltown. So I thought it would be neat to check them out as like the bonus videos.
Sweet.
Right? You like witches, right?
Yeah.
Sprad Paranormal. What's up, bud? Thank you. I appreciate it. Croatoan? No, we're not talking about any forgotten Roanoke colonies or nothing like that, but
Today we are in the historic village of Peninsula, Ohio, deep in the Cuyahoga Valley National Park. Peninsula is a charming little canal town that's become quite trendy, but the scenery and shopping isn't the only thing that brings visitors to this area. Legend has it that there is a grave here of a witch who was captured and drowned in the Cuyahoga River. Before she died, she vowed revenge, saying that lightning would strike her grave and set her free. Today we visit the legend of the Witch of Helltown, a legend that's steeped in history more than you would think. So if you're curious, let's take a walk through history.
God, that's a creepy riff. I wonder if that's on YouTube Studios.
Legend has it that an old woman lived near this lock in the village of Peninsula. She spent most of her days walking through the forest, collecting wild mushrooms and herbs, and she was rarely seen in the daytime. But when she was seen, she was mostly wearing all black and a large, floppy straw hat. The townspeople would often visit the old woman, seeking their fortunes, or for potions to cure the sick, or for love spells.
Ooh.
One of those townspeople was a large man named Big Sam. Big Sam was a farmer, and he was a greedy man. He was a man who had land, but he wanted more land. He wanted all of the land. And so, in order to get more land, he came up with a plan. He decided that he was going to befriend the old woman because the old woman was meeting with the townspeople and getting the scoop on everybody just because of her friendships. He decided if he could befriend her and start getting information on the townspeople, then he could blackmail the townspeople out of their riches and their property.
I think I've heard this song. Another Man Done Gone. Was that an Eagles tune? Another Man Done Gone. It's all about this dude who went down to New Orleans and made out with Marie Laveau or her sister or something like that. And Carrie will love it when you start playing dirty. That's his bread and butter. He'll just smile and enjoy the abuse. Yeah, that's his cup of tea. What's up, John Eagle? Good to see you, bud.
Well, it worked for a while. And then the old woman got wise to what was happening. So in order to keep his status in the community, Big Sam decided to tell the old woman that she had to keep doing what she was doing, or
hold up. Bill, violence is life. I gotta tell you, man, I'm pretty sure if you attempt to blackmail Carrie, his response would be to do it again and send you the pictures. I'm just guessing here, but I've known him for a minute. He would do it better, harder, deeper, whatever it was. He'd do it more. Right? That's him.
He would take her home and her land. It came to a point where the old woman had had enough. She went to Big Sam and she said, "Listen, I'm not going to be part of you stealing from these kind townspeople anymore. I won't help you any longer." Well, that didn't set well with Big Sam. So Big Sam told her that she would regret this decision, and he went home. The next day, Big Sam showed up at her house.
Thank you, Smoke.
Dragged her to the center of town, stripped her of her clothes and her hat, and saw that she bore scars all over her body. The townspeople stood in awe. They were too afraid to help for fear of what Big Sam might do. Sam turned to the townspeople and said, She bears the marks of a witch who was burned. Clearly, burning did not take her life, but maybe water could do what fire could not. Big Sam tied the old woman to the
Seems
back of his
harsh.
buggy and forced her to walk barefoot down to the lock. Every so often, he would look behind to see her walking pridefully, just staring at the back of his head with an evil grin. When they finally reached the river, Big Sam tied rock.
She was just staring him down the whole way, grinning at him. You know, like a witch.
Yeah.
It's a good story. You got to admit, it's a real good story.
To her feet and was preparing to lower her into the water when he asked her if she had any final words. She looked at him and her eyes were glazed over, almost milky, like silver spoons. She said that she regretted nothing and that he had better bury her quickly and bury her hard, because only a lightning strike would free her from her grave. Big Sam, full of anger, kicked her into the water with his big black boot and watched her drown. When she was pronounced dead, she was placed here in the local cemetery under this headstone, which was the tallest in the cemetery at the time. Big Sam had her placed here as a constant reminder that he was the man in charge. And if you cross him, you'll dig your own grave. One night there was a nasty storm, and the caretaker saw a lightning bolt strike this headstone and put a crack in it all the way down to the earth. That same night, Big Sam awoke from a terrifying nightmare in which the witch had come back and dragged him down to the lock. Restless, Big Sam put on his robe and his boots, headed out to the barn where he kept his prized goat, and sat down and lit his pipe. Sam began to tell the goat about his lousy dream, and as he did so, the goat stopped eating and turned his head and gazed up at Big Sam. And when their eyes met, Big Sam saw the milky eyes of the witch staring back at him. Big Sam clutched his chest and fell to the ground, dead.
Dead.
It is said that the witch's
Good to see you,
spirit
bud.
still haunts the cemetery,
Goat's eyes are very
but
creepy.
that when her
That's
apparition
true.
appears, it is that of a white goat. So why do we call the old woman the Witch of Helltown? Helltown is a nickname for Boston Township. Boston Township is made up of several villages in Ohio, one of which is Peninsula. And it's here, back in 1974, that several homeowners and landowners had eminent domain filed against their property by the United States government. See, back in the
Last I heard from
Very
Jake,
interesting.
Carrie show up? Oh, no. Last I heard from Jake, he was having, like you said, internet problems, and he posted a community thing, I think, that said
Yeah.
that he'd get back to it when he got it straightened out or whatever. I don't know. Usually he pops up on his phone when that happens, but I am kind of concerned. I'm gonna give him a couple more days. I mean, that's why I went live tonight, was because I was pretty sure he wasn't going to be, and I'm kind of hoping he does Wednesday, you know. Yeah.
late 60s and early 70s, there was fear that the country was expanding too quickly and we were losing our national parks and the nature of our country. So President Ford signed an act that gave rights to the government to claim eminent domain and to build a national park system that would preserve that nature. Just so happens that this beautiful area in the Cuyahoga Valley was targeted for one of those national recreation areas. President Ford decided that William Birdsall should become the first superintendent of the Cuyahoga Valley National Recreation Area, later to become known as Cuyahoga Valley National Park. And he should spearhead the movement to determine where the national recreation area should lie and what parts of Boston Township should be claimed under eminent domain. You got to figure that there are a lot of people who are not happy with this decision. When the
Your
government
cat's been
claimed eminent
18 for
domain,
years now.
many of the people took the modest price that they were offered for their house or for their property.
By my own admission, it was 17 when I started,
Oh, wow.
but I do kind of feel like that's been a really, really long time. But there's
I'm
no,
like, I'm keep waiting to see a new number, and I'm just like, it's always 18. It's like, how
Oh.
long is a cat year?
I swear, when I first started, she was saying it was 17 or 16 years old.
Maybe.
Pretty sure it was 17. And
I think I remember a glimpse of 17.
right, so it's not beyond the
Birthday's
pale.
got to be coming up, right? OPD.
I mean, it's 18 years. It's been a year. If we picked up right at the tail end of the 17th
Right?
year,
Yeah.
18, 19. We ought to be
Yeah.
rolling around another birthday in like another 6 months or so. Yeah.
Okay.
It's doable.
We're watching you.
What's wrong with us?
And left. But there were several who didn't. They decided that they weren't going to be displaced from their own homes. And soon the government had to send in the military to forcefully remove these people. Once they were removed from their homes were set on fire and bulldozed to the ground. But production on the National Recreation Area
Welcome in,
stalled.
Andrew. Good to see you, bud.
The Kretschke dump, which is located on the outskirts of the recreation area, was found to be contaminated by improperly disposed toxic waste. The park rangers who went to the dump to survey the area fell ill and had rashes come over their entire bodies. Then it was determined the way that the government purchased the homes and the land was illegal. So the government was forced to sell the land back to the previous homeowners. The problem is their houses, for the most part, had been destroyed. There was nothing left to go back to. And so many didn't come back. President Ford reassigned Birdsall to a new location, but he never left the valley. Birdsall died of a heart attack while cleaning out his office.
Hello, Tales Told in the
The
Dark. Good to see
devastation
you.
laid upon the area gave rise to the nickname Helltown, a location filled with urban legends. The list of urban legends rising from Helltown is long indeed. The Satanic Church with upside-down crosses,
What?
the Peninsula Python, the haunted abandoned bus,
Oh, yeah.
the Crybaby Bridge, all of these are part of the legend of Helltown. It could be that the Witch of Helltown is a story that was passed down through generations as a reminder of when the government came in and forcefully
Thank you,
removed
Trace.
people from the area. Big Sam, in a large sense, represents the federal government, Uncle Sam, if you will, hungry for all of the land and powerful enough to take it, no matter the cost. Big Sam also represents William Birdsall, the government official who headed the project. Both of them died of a heart attack. The witch represents those who stood up to the government, and though eventually lost everything, their lives, ended up putting a stop to the land grab. Those who don't believe the legend think that this monument marks the final resting place of Robert McGovern, who was a
It did
solitary
till it got electrocuted.
who died in a mental institution and carved this monument himself. They believe that vandals chipped away at this monument, stealing the cross that stood on top of this once 8-foot tall marker, and that witches and lightning strikes play no part in this sacred site. That may be true, but the occurrences that happened in this area in the 1970s, for those who lived through it, were a nightmare, far more unbelievable than any witch's tale, until lightning struck them and turned their quiet village into a hell town. Thanks for watching, folks.
I'm telling you,
If
that's
would,
not a heck of a
please like,
story.
subscribe, and leave a
Whether
comment.
it's true,
For sure.
Love to hear from you.
whether it's true or legend or made up or he found it in the back of an old magazine, I don't care. It's
So I have
hella-
a question. Where
Right.
where you're at, do you have a bus, you know, urban legend, and a lady around a water, or somewhat similar to those two stories like he was saying?
The lady in white story is associated with most any bridge that you find. There's almost always a story of someone who jumped from a bridge and died. They were dressed in white on their wedding dress or their wedding gown or their wedding night or the night he went around.
Well, ours is called the donkey lady. So
the
I
donkey
mean,
lady. You have a you have a
yes,
ghost donkey.
we have a donkey lady that's by the river, and then but we have a bus urban legend too about the kids that died in the bus and the blah blah blah. But I was just curious, you know, in your
No.
area.
By all means, continue with the bus. What are we? Okay, wait, hold on. One thing at a time.
Oh no! See,
Donkey
truth
lady.
be told, could have he would be a better storyteller. I mean, that's from our area where we grew
But
up.
about
Yes,
the
a
donkey
donkey
lady,
lady.
was there a donkey ghost involved?
Oh, I don't know how the story goes.
Okay, all
That
right,
one.
we'll
Oh,
skip
look, there's also a woman hollering creek. Yep, in Texas.
Huh. You might want to stay away from that creek. I hear it might be bobcats. Uh,
That was
we have
crazy.
one more going here.
For-
Now, homie here, he's about as spot on as you're going to get as far as making videos. This is Mystery Archives. Now, I had originally planned on doing an entire show just on Helltown, but when I got to looking at it, it's a lot of repetitive features. So I went and got one good video that covers most of the basic history out of the area, and then another one about the witch, because I don't think this one even accounts for it. What do you think about this story? Isn't that nuts?
Yes.
And what do you reckon? Was there ever an actual witch, or did they just murder some old lady?
I'm gonna say witch.
I think they're all murderers.
For decades, Helltown has been infamous for countless legends, from satanic cults to ghostly apparitions, government experiments, and more. But what is it about this small abandoned Ohio area that has spawned these legends? That's what we'll be diving into today here on Mystery Archives.
I totally dig it. You're real cool. You got to be that cool all the time.
Yep.
Cody Richardson and some other dude. I don't think you got timed out. If you got timed out, it wasn't by me.
Or me.
Last night? I wasn't live last night, was I?
No,
Wednesday.
Saturday. You were not
Saturday. And no, I wasn't operating the chat. That was Ryan operating the chat. And for the screaming into the void thing, I don't remember if I actually did that one. I think I did. But no, he was controlling the chat there, and then in the show I did afterwards, I was controlling the chat. But as far as I know, I haven't timed you out ever. I don't think so. Come on now.
The home of a massacre in 1782.
Right.
Helltown's history from the beginning has been shrouded in darkness. Originally founded by Native American tribes in 1758, it shortly became the home of a massacre in 1782, caused by inter-tribe fighting and opposing sides siding with colonials. It was also located on a tribal war trail and became the site of several bloody battles early on, battles which led to a number of Native American burial sites on the land. The lands would later be resettled in 1806, and what would become known as Helltown would encompass 3 towns altogether. It's these tumultuous beginnings that seem to have laid the groundwork for the stories we hear today.
You up
From
for a
here,
little bit of
we will
reading
cover the
after the
various
show? El Chikorito. Yeah, you wandered off, didn't you? You're just pretending to be here. I see how it is.
No, I was muted. What are you talking about?
I had this image in my head of you diving across the bed. No, I didn't want to. I'm right here. Am I psychic or just watching you? I don't know.
No, I mean, with a fractured leg, it's kind of hard. But I probably would have had.
I want to try to work on my transition between reading the lines and into that freaking song, because for some stupid reason when I do that, it just twitches my brain out.
Yeah.
I just draw a blank on the song. That's it.
I'm
Yeah.
down.
Okay.
Legends associated with Helltown. It's hard to decipher fact from fiction, or even put a timeline to where these stories came from, but I'll do my best with the information that I've gained. But first, to begin to understand Helltown, we must understand why the area was abandoned, and to do this, we must take a glimpse into the past. The year was 1974, and a man named William Birdsell was the National Recreational Superintendent who had recently been tasked by then President Ford to establish a national recreation area in the Cayuga Valley where Helltown was located. Little did the people know that this man would soon become their worst enemy. A town meeting was called shortly after Birdsell arrived, and it was in this meeting that the people were informed that they had to sell their homes to the government, whether they liked it or not. This life-changing event was not up for negotiation, and these purchases were essentially going to be made at fire sale prices. With little to no recourse at the time, many people simply did what they were told to do, despite the anger, frustration, and sadness at the entire situation. But several citizens, despite the risk, outright refused to leave their homes. They wanted to know just why and for what reason they had no other choice other than to sell what in most circumstances was their entire life's work for next to nothing. And over the course of the next couple months, many were given conflicting and confusing reasons, and some weren't given any reasons at all. And this for a short period seemed to keep Birdsell at bay until he reached an inevitable boiling point. The army soon invaded the valley and began forcibly removing residents from their homes, after which they sealed off the town and began boarding up, burning down, and demolishing homes. The angered citizens eventually ended up in court with the Department of Interiors, whose head at the time was sympathetic to their situation and ordered a halt to the operation after it was found that these homes had been purchased illegally. Many of the residents were contacted about purchasing their old homesteads back, but the majority had nothing to go home to. So Helltown remained a ghost town. As for William Birdsell, his shady dealings with the whole situation ended rather ironically. Just weeks before the end of the program, he was set to be transferred to a different part of the country for a new assignment. And as he was cleaning out his desk from the command post in Helltown, he died of a heart attack and could never truly leave. During the time in which the area has been abandoned, there's been many rumors and legends. I'll try my best to at least touch upon the majority of them that I can find. The Army, as a result of the siege, was frequently dealing with squatters, criminals, and citizens refusing to leave their homes during the occupation of Helltown. And it's rumored that during this time, soldiers had run-ins with serial killers, cult members, and even mutated creatures. It can't be confirmed, but it's been said that multiple people went missing both during the Army's time there and after they vacated the area. In regards to serial killers and criminals, the area's famous End of the World Road, named after its steep drop into the woods, was known for being a haven for thieves and killers back in the early settlement days, and perhaps it never truly stopped being that. There are lots of abandoned buildings in Helltown, from an old slaughterhouse to a morgue, a VA hospital, and more.
All
But
right,
as far
Kat.
as cults are concerned,
You milk
there are
that goat.
tons of stories
Sure she
centered around
enjoys it.
dark hooded figures chanting strange things out in the woods, particularly at night. And it seems that a lot of them are also associated with the abandoned church. The real church, dubbed Satan's Church, often gets confused for the Mother of
Oh wow, they
Sorrows
had to
parish
blur out that
due to
whole
the Mother
thing.
of Sorrows having the presence of upside down crosses, also known as St. Peter's crosses, which
Right.
are not satanic and were very prevalent during that old style church architecture. Mother of Sorrows Parish is actually still a fully functioning church today, located nearby. But groups of people who have dared to wander into Helltown at night have reported eerie chants and seeing groups of supposed cult members carrying out some kind of ritual within the brick walls of the chapel. Many have claimed to have seen a red candlelight coming from the basement of the old morgue.
Wait a second.
This
How
could
are
be
you
due to
seeing this from the
squatters,
basement?
Which, if it was me, that's the last place I would choose to live, is an abandoned morgue in a ghost town. But the candles seemingly go out after being stared at, so whatever it is, it certainly sounds spooky. In regards to mutated creatures, there's many conspiracies as to why people were forced to sell their homes, and many say it wasn't due to the government wanting to turn the valley into a national park or recreational area. There were confirmed reports of a sulfuric smell wafting throughout prior to the government showing up and sealing off the town. Many think that this was due to illegal chemical dumping happening at the local dump, which is certainly plausible. Crazier theories, however, speculate that there was some sort of underground pass located beneath Helltown, perhaps a facility that the government uses for genetic experimentation. This correlates with claims of enlarged and deformed creatures encountered throughout the area over the years. From half-human, half-animal monstrosities to reports of gigantic snakes.
Boy, he's so ugly,
And if
he's
any of them
almost
were
cute.
true, it would have to make one ponder
Yeesh.
as to what could
Got a
be
little
happening
something
deep beneath the earth
going on there, bud.
of this forgotten
Need a little
place.
ointment or something.
Other notable and strange happenings include that of ghostly apparitions at
Hello,
Gore
I'm
Orphanage.
Zaxxon. Welcome to the show, bud.
Gore
Good to see you.
Orphanage, also known as Light of
Right,
Hope
no, I mean,
Orphanage,
like, how do you know
was
it's a
an
red
orphanage
candle?
built-
How do you see it when it's in the basement and clearly you're not in there? I mean, you're not even supposed to go to this town. You're not supposed to know it exists and stuff. And as far as the mutated animals, couldn't that be accounted for by certain types of contamination, which is part of the reason that stuff they were moved out in the first place? I mean, that could just be further misinformation to cast doubt in the area in the first place, right? Or it could be a legitimate contamination issue and it's actually scorching the animals. I don't know. I know that one critter kind of looked like one of the Grievers from Maze Runner.
Built and operated in the early 1900s that mysteriously caught fire and caused the deaths of 172 children and at least 4 known adults.
I'm thinking he must mean
As
a
a
red
result
light.
of this horrific incident,
That could also
both
be a
before
highway
and
flare.
after Helltown was abandoned, people often reported strange apparitions and the disembodied sound of children screaming. And regardless of if these claims are true or not, with a tragic event such as this one, it makes one ponder if things such as hauntings were real. This could be a case of a ripple-like haunting, or the traumatic energy of the fateful day's events playing over and over again for all time. It would certainly explain the repeated screams being heard, in my opinion. Another
Bobcats.
tragedy that supposedly took place in the mid-1900s within the area was that of a school bus of children headed to class. This school bus crashed and claimed the lives of at least 20 children and 1 adult. And this one, like a lot of the others, was impossible to dig up information on. But there is an abandoned bus in the area as seen here, and there have been claims of people seeing a shadow man smoking a cigarette at night
Was it me?
within the bus, only for him
Might have
to
been the smoking
dissipate
auditor.
after a light source makes contact with him. The last legend I wanted to share with you today is that of the ghost house that's said to appear surrounding Helltown. This
We
is
got
a
Baba Yaga's
temple-lit
hut over
structure
here.
that appears within the foggy distance. And if you are able to make it to the door, do not go inside. Because once daybreak hits, you can never leave. This one certainly is one of the spookier stories to me. And who knows if anyone ever did make it inside, we wouldn't be able to hear what they found, since they more than likely never came back. Helltown has both some very real and interesting stories surrounding it, to say the least. I think what happened there to the residents during the legal government seizure of their homes was extremely wrong and sad. As far as the legends surrounding the place, there are so many that I just picked the best ones that I could find. And if you're interested, I would definitely suggest looking up the laundry list for yourself. All around, the mythos surrounding this small stretch of land in the Cayuga Valley has been incredibly interesting to learn about, and as far as I know, the majority of main entry points are still closed to this day. So if you are nearby, I wouldn't recommend going, since you'd more than likely be breaking the law. Other than that, I just wanted to thank Jacob for suggesting this story.
So-
I'd never.
I was watching your little, fugitive square because, you have
Yeah.
all this stuff I have to look at. And the one where the cartoon, it looked like a cartoon girl was behind the bars. And I was like, he has my Bitmoji up there. Oh my goodness. And I was like, So yeah, anyway.
All right, thanks. That's American Justice of Texas right there. Somebody drop a link in the chat. I'll hit it. I'm gonna do a read through of this script, like the transition from the speaking part of it to the, because here's the thing, he's playing 3 different characters in real close proximity, and if you watch the movie, he uses 3 different voices and 3 different accents, right? So he's the
Yes.
doorman, and he's like a carnival barker, but not. And then he's the coachman, and when he's the coachman, he's like a real upbeat, like really crisp. Anyway, I'll work on it. I'm gonna work on it. I'm not real happy with my performance, but everybody else seems to be fairly tickled, except for Darth. What did they call it? Darth Oz? Darth Ozma? Yeah. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. Anyway. So that's pretty much it, folks. You want to say stuff to everybody? Ooh, that is creepy shit. Why would you put up? Get out of here. Look, y'all have a good evening. We're gonna do this thing over here.
Fuck this shit, I'm out. Fuck this shit, I'm out. No thanks. Don't mind me. I'ma just grab my stuff and leave. Excuse me, please. Fuck this shit, I'm out. Nope. Fuck this shit, I'm out. Alright then. I don't know what the fuck just happened.